Hello everyone, welcome to the Smart Investor right here. Subscribe to my channel. Also make sure that you like it. It's important for the algorithm because we live and we die by the algorithm. Anyway, all jokes aside, when looking at the stock market, we're looking to try to understand what's really going on. You can always look at what the big guys are doing, the smart guys, the guys that make the money, or the gals that make the money, or the smart gals. Right? So one item that you can use is called the 13F. Large funds, for example, have the ability and the duty to file what it is that they have in their portfolio. So it's not like a big mystery. Of course, they only file, it's not what they have in their portfolio from yesterday. It's the portfolio that they have over the past 3 months. So basically right now, I'm looking at the portfolio of Mr. Warren Buffett, and is holding as of June 30th, 24, and it was filed only very recently. So if we take a look at his profile, and I will send it to you right there, as you could see, interesting. Now remember, this was as of June, and he sold a lot of the Apple shares, and he lost a lot of the Bank of America, and I think he's got some American Express and these type of company. But what are we seeing, right? What is this telling us? Well, first of all, what this tells you is, as you could see, top 10 stocks, 1, 30, 45, 55, 65, 70, 80, almost 90% of his portfolio is with about 10 stocks. So basically Apple, Bank of America, American Express, Coca-Cola, Chevron, Oxy, Heinz, Moody's, Chubb, DaVita, and Citigroup. And that's about it. But most of it is concentrating in 3 stocks. This is what is the difference with Warren Buffett. And this is why you should always follow and listen and learn from people like him. Why? Well, because his approach is very different than the theorists. You always tell you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Mix things up. You never know what's going to happen, right? So don't put all your eggs in one basket. You say, no. Where do you want me to put my eggs? In another basket? How do I know that basket is stronger than this basket? Well, because at least if this one breaks, the other basket will be there because you're diversifying away. It's kind of a natural thing, right? You want to mix it up just in case, okay? Well, his view is simple. His view is that it's called not diversification, it is called diversification, because de facto you invest in something that you do not understand. So how is that going to help me? Well, because if you pick one stock and it fails, then you look stupid because you could have picked another stock. But we're not picking oranges and apples here, right? The idea is that you're supposed to know what you're buying, and that is kind of the ultimate insult to the small investor. They say, no, because you don't know anything, buy your portfolio of stocks so you could diversify. You don't know anything about stocks, right? You don't know what's a good stock from bad stocks. You don't know how to analyze stocks. So what you do is you diversify. And by the way, you should, because when you do that and you go and buy in our funds, I get paid as a portfolio manager based on the size of the portfolio, not how well I perform most of the time. But if you know what you're buying, and if you look at my videos, I usually pick a stock and I talk a little bit about it. Take a look at the stocks, understand, look at my portfolio. I will post it again so you can see it. I'm not saying buy the stocks. I'm just saying, find out and learn and understand, right? So as an investor, you need to know what you're buying. And this is kind of what he's saying, and it makes total sense, right? So what is he buying? Apple. I'm assuming by now you know what these guys do, right? And you're kind of familiar. NVIDIA probably not, because it's like, what? They do chips for AI. What is generative AI? Is it large language models? What are we talking about? But this Apple thing is easy. It's been around forever. Bank of America. It's a bank. It's a big bank. American Express. Coca-Cola. Chevron, right? The guy is very simple in his mindset. But at the end of the day, that's what you should do as well. He's not in and out of the market every day. He's not trying to make a buck. He's trying to make $1 billion. And how does he do it? He buys what he knows. He buys what he understands. And this is what this is about. Occidental Petroleum, a big petroleum company. Heinz, the ketchup. Moody's, the rating agency. Chubb, the insurance. DaVita is a healthcare company. Citigroup. And then, of course, by that time, it becomes almost nothing. And it goes smaller and smaller. I mean, he's got Amazon. He's got some MasterCard in there. He's got some Ally Financial. I mean, it goes down to almost nothing. Having said that, one name that has come up. And everybody's saying, that's interesting. That's a new position. What is that? He invested actually $266 million into Ulta Beauty, ULTA. Interesting. Let's take a look at ULTA. And let's get in this mind to see, because that's the beauty product. I mean, it's not a lot, obviously. The stock is about 374, and the past 5 days, it's up 16%. Not bad, isn't it? So let's take a look, very simply, let's take a look at the profile, right? So the profile, Ulta Beauty operates specialty beauty retail in the United States. The company offers brand and private label beauty product. It offers beauty services. It's a beauty store with, frankly, I don't really know them, but I'm kind of looking at it, and it's called Ulta Beauty. I think they have a couple of stores around, very nice stores, okay? So let's find out the summary a little bit. But the summary is actually, the stock is doing great, obviously. The PE ratio is 14. Hello, low PE ratio. The beta is a bit wild, but that's okay. Let's take a look at the financial. Let's look at the financials. And if you look at the financial, we went from 1.5 billion to 1.8 billion. So we're growing. And the revenues is growing as well. And how much debt do we have for a company like that? Do we have lots of debt? I don't see interest expense. Do you see? I don't know. Small company, growing, no debt. Kind of easy to understand. And that's what you should do when you think about these things. You should kind of focus yourself around making sure you understand the stock. That is very important. And then, what he does, he buys and he forgets about it. Because you say, why? I know what they're doing. Because remember, the market, you tend to believe that the market knows. No, the market is quite emotional, right? The market is very emotional. And the market is mostly focused on the price risk. The way the stock goes up and down, it's got its own value, its own DNA. At the end of the day, you want to make sure you understand what you're buying, and you understand by looking at the credit risk, because that's what's important at the end of the day. Because if the money doesn't make any money, then you have nothing. The rest, there is a relationship, certainly, but the market is always in search of a story. And sometimes your name is here and the story sometimes is like that, but sometimes your story gets away from the name and it starts thinking and it starts to dream up ideas. Like, for example, the last week it was, oh my God, we're going to go in a recession. The recession is coming. Look, unemployment and rates have been so high for so long. He's going to kill the economy. And obviously people get stuck in those stories, because then they get re-invited back to talk about it over and over. Because obviously it's easier to say, oh my God, there's a fire. People say, what? Where? If you say, oh my God, this is great, everything is fine, nobody's going to pay attention to you. People pay attention to the message. People pay attention to the headline. But at the end of the day, what you want is the truth. And the truth, while the truth is out there, it is very difficult to know what's actually happening. What you do know is what people think is happening. That they could tell you. But what's really happening, you don't know. I don't know if you know that your brain doesn't see anything, right? Well, you're watching me right now. You're thinking a bunch of things. But the emotion that you have right now are the emotion that your brain is telling you that's happening. Know what's really happening. You may look at me and say, this guy doesn't know anything. He's got a store in the back. He's drinking all day. Who knows what this guy's about? You don't know anything, because the brain is telling you. And the brain is telling you this because it's evaluating, is basically giving you a projection. It's like when you meet someone you don't like. People are after me. They don't like me. Maybe none of this is happening. Maybe all is happening is the fact that really they like you, but you don't know, right? So, and it's the same thing with the stock market. There's lots of emotion. Now, of course, what you should do, as much as possible, you should try to be as unemotional as possible. You have to be like a monk in the sense that you need to understand your feelings, your emotion, and say, is this what's really happening? I mean, they use those techniques when people have mental issues, right? They say, okay, you know what? These people don't all hate you. That's in your mind. Because what is your brain, right? Your brain using your eyes and your nose and your ears to see what's going on. She doesn't see anything in there. She's locked in your head. So nothing. So the point is, you need to realize that whatever you're feeling are just estimation, just projections. Okay, why do you think there are always stock crashes? Okay. Why do you think people divorce all the time? Why do you think there are wars over and over? Wouldn't you think that by now we would figure out, you know what, maybe this is what, right? Why are we having the same issue over and over? Because we don't learn. And the reason we don't learn is because we are built to be as efficient as possible. We try to use as least amount of energy as possible. I mean, if you have to think before you do anything, you have to sit there and say, okay, let me think about this for a second. Let me decide, are these people really like me? Why would they not like me? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I didn't do anything to them. You know, you're not going to go through all this. I can't stand their face. Same thing with the stock market. So last week it was all about unemployment and it was all about recession. And then what we've seen very recently in the news is that we had some pretty positive news that had to do with the fact that there were some unemployment numbers that came out that looked pretty good. There was a few things that came out that were pretty good last week. Actually, yesterday we saw some very good numbers. We got some retail numbers that came out that were pretty good. So that's always good, right? And then we had the, what did we have? Walmart came out with earnings report, gives investor hope that weakening retail spending trends may be ending. So the consumer seems to be okay. And then, of course, unemployment, we realize now that, yeah, the number is going up a little bit, right? But that's because it would appear because of immigration, people coming into this country, they're adding to the pool, and because we are finally ending the huge amount of money and support that happened during COVID, that is kind of bringing back the resources back to the market, to the economy. Therefore, there are more people looking for a job, not because they lost their job, but because they're now available to work. Correct. Right? There was a huge amount of money spent during COVID. You have no idea. So to that end, that story is now moving away from it. Now, having said that about the story, one thing you need to realize is what is going to be the next story. But from now until September is the time to invest, because it would appear that the coast is clear. Why do you think Warren Buffett unwound all of his position in July? He unwound B of A, and he unwound not all of it, but Apple, right? So he's trying to position himself. He's trying to figure out what to do with his cash. Now, of course, you guys went with him when he went up. He bailed out. Remember, buy when everybody else is selling and sell when everybody else is buying. You want to be the first one. He was the first one at the door. Now he's sitting on a pile of cash and he's waiting for, you say, well, he's waiting for the crash. There's going to be a huge crash coming. Based on what? Okay. The coast is clear probably until September. Now, September, you're going to have to be careful. Now, the thing that you have to be careful, that you have to watch out for, is the fact that I'm hearing more and more discussion having to do with the national debt. For example, recently, forget Congress who was complaining, but recently the CEO of JP Morgan Chase basically said that he has a plan to end is to make a dent out of the national debt. What does that mean? It means that there's a concern over it. See, that's the thing you have to be careful when they start talking about it and talking about it again, yet again. Then the story could start moving around and say, hey, do we have a problem with the national debt? No, we do, because you're never paying that money back. It's impossible to pay $35 trillion unless you suffer a lot. Okay. But the point is, when you have to resolve this issue, we have to see how we take advantage of that. Remember, at the end of the day, as an investor, You need to always think, how do I take advantage of these people running around from one story to the other story to the next story? Right now, best time to do is coast is clear until September. Now, of course, you have to be careful. Make sure you understand what it is that you're buying. Make sure you know exactly what you have in your portfolio. That is extremely important. Now, today, of course, the market is kind of not doing anything. It's kind of, regurgitating what happened, trying to understand, trying to see, trying to look at the views. But as an investor, you must always be on the lookout for anything, and I mean anything that's happening. Now, this is, of course, very great because as you follow, if you were to follow the market every day, right? Now, of course, you have to be careful. You got to make sure the signals and the noise. Remember that very important. There's a very important book called The Signal and the Noise, right? Not the noise, right? What's the difference between the two? Is this a signal or is this noise? Sometimes there's a lot of noise in the market. But I realize now when you listen to everything that's being said all of the time, there's lots of stories going out. You have to realize who are the players, who is telling you that story. What is there? What is it? Why are they telling you this? Why are they telling you that this is a great stock? Why are they telling you how to make money? Why don't they make money for themselves and don't tell you anyone? Why do you think that is? As opposed to me, which is basically an educator, I'm trying to teach you something, I'm not selling you anything. They, on the other hand, will try to sell you time. They're selling you time. They want you to watch, they want you to listen, and they want you to imagine that maybe you could make as much money as they do. Maybe you could have the stock that's going to make you so you don't have to work and you become a millionaire. But trust me, even as a millionaire, what do you want to sit around with it? Now nothing? Look at me, okay? You want to keep busy. The brain needs to work. The brain needs to come up with stuff. You need to keep busy. The less you do, the more. Socrates from Greece said, if you want to be good at one thing, you have to do that thing. Really? What does that mean? Well, if you want to be good at something, you have to keep doing that thing. Even if you don't like it, you will learn to do it because your brain will get used to it. You just have to decide what that thing is. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to do it. And that's important. Okay, so let's remember today's lesson is Warren Buffett only invests in a few stocks. Here they are. I don't know, take a look at this beauty stock. Looks interesting. And more importantly, learn what it is that you're buying. Learn and understand it. Also, the story right now is over the next month. It looks like the coast is clear. We don't have a recession. What we have to worry about is the 35 trillion at some point. But we have to worry about what the Fed is going to do in September. Because if for some reason they do 75 basis points, people are going to cry. If they do 0, people are going to die. If they do 24, people are going to sleep. If they do 50, they're going to say, that's interesting. And we're going to keep on going and going. The trick is, how high can NVIDIA go? And that's why maybe at some point switch to something with a little less P and more valuation. That I think would make a lot more sense.